You've been taught something that sounds noble, but quietly destroys your financial future. Be loyal. Support your people. Never forget who was there for you. It sounds right. It feels right. It makes you look like a good person. But here's the uncomfortable part. The same mindset that builds emotional bonds can quietly destroy your money. And wealthy families, they handle this very differently. Not louder, not colder on the surface, but underneath, they follow a rule that most people would call harsh, a rule that protects their wealth, even if it offends people. And if you don't understand it, you'll keep making decisions that feel good, but cost you everything. Part 1. The trap that feels like virtue. Let's start here. Why does it feel wrong to say no to people you care about? And why does it feel uncomfortable to separate money from relationships? Because you've been conditioned. From childhood, you're told, help family first, support your friends, stay loyal no matter what. And again, it sounds right until money enters the picture. Because money changes everything. It introduces expectations, pressure power dynamics, silent resentment. But nobody teaches you how to handle that. Instead, you rely on emotion, and emotion is expensive. Part 2. When good intentions become bad decisions. Let's be honest. Most of your worst financial decisions didn't come from greed. They came from loyalty. You invested in a friend's idea, loaned money you couldn't afford to lose, stayed in a bad partnership too long, gave opportunities based on relationship, not competence. And at the time, it felt right. Because you weren't thinking like an investor. You were thinking like a loyal person. Now ask yourself, how did that end? Part 3. The silent cost of emotional decisions. Here's what nobody talks about. When you mix emotion with money, you lose clarity, you stop asking hard questions, you ignore red flags, you avoid uncomfortable conversations. Why? Because you don't want to damage the relationship. So instead, you damage your finances. And sometimes, you damage both. Because when money goes wrong, relationships follow. Part 4. Why wealthy families seem different. Have you ever noticed this? Wealthy families can appear distant, not rude, not aggressive, just controlled. They don't rush to help financially. They don't jump into business with friends. They don't make emotional money moves. And at first glance, it looks cold, but it's not cold. It's structured because they've learned something early. Money exposes the truth of relationships, and if you're not careful, it can destroy them. Part 5. The game you're playing without realizing. Let me ask you directly, why does your CPA never warn you about mixing emotions and money? Because they're not paid to. They're paid to manage outcomes, not prevent emotional mistakes. But wealthy families, they build systems to avoid those mistakes entirely. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on rules, unspoken, but enforced. Part 6. The pressure you don't see coming. Here's how it starts. Small, a request. Can you help me with something? It sounds harmless, but underneath, there's pressure, emotional pressure, because saying no feels like betrayal. So you say yes, even when you shouldn't. And now, you're no longer making a financial decision. You're managing a relationship. That's the shift. And once that happens, you've already lost control. Part 7. Why saying yes can cost you everything. Every yes has a cost, not just financially, but structurally. Because when you say yes based on emotion, you set a precedent, you create expectation, you weaken boundaries, and next time, it's harder to say no. This compounds quietly until one day, you're stuck in obligations you never intended to create. Part 8. The invisible damage, still no full reveal. Let's go deeper. When money and emotion mix, something subtle happens. Your decision-making shifts. You stop evaluating risk properly. You stop thinking long-term. You focus on immediate harmony, keeping the peace, avoiding tension. But wealth is not built on comfort. It's built on clarity, and clarity requires distance. Part 9. The turning point. Reveal begins. Here's the shift. The one wealthy families understand early. They separate two things completely: relationships and financial decisions. Not sometimes, not when it's convenient. Always. Because they know something you're just starting to see. Emotion clouds judgment, and money requires precision. Part 10. The rule. No sentimental business. This is the rule, the one that feels uncomfortable, but protects everything. No sentimental business decisions. That means you don't invest because you like someone. You don't hire because of loyalty. You don't partner because of history. You evaluate based on competence, structure, risk return, nothing else. And yes or not, that feels harsh, but it's not. It's clean. Part 11. Detachment is not disloyalty. This is where people get it wrong. They think detachment means you don't care. That's not true. It means you care enough to not destroy the relationship with money. Because once money enters, everything changes. Expectations shift. Power shifts. And if things go wrong, resentment replaces loyalty. Wealthy families avoid this entirely. Part 12. How they maintain boundaries. They don't explain this rule. They live it consistently. They keep business and family separate. Use formal agreements. Even with close people, say no without over-explaining. Avoid informal financial commitments. And over time, people understand. Their boundaries become clear and respected. Sir, Part 13. Why you struggle with this? Because you've been taught to equate saying no equals being selfish. Setting boundaries equals being difficult. Separating money equals being cold. But that's not reality. That's conditioning. And it keeps you stuck because you're prioritizing approval over long-term stability. Part 14. The power of clear financial rules. Wealthy families don't decide in the moment. They decide in advance. They create rules like, we don't lend money informally. We don't invest in friends' businesses. We don't mix family and financial risk. So when situations arise, there's no emotional debate. The decision is already made. That's power. Part 15. The final shift. Here's what you need to understand. You can be a good person and still have strict financial boundaries. You can care about people without risking your future. You can support others without sacrificing your position, but only if you separate the two, emotion and money. Ending. So the next time someone comes to you with a financial request, pause and ask yourself, am I making this decision based on logic or loyalty? Because the wealthy already know something you're just learning. The fastest way to lose money is to make decisions based on feelings, and the fastest way to protect it is to keep those feelings out of the equation.